Hey, Djonai, how you feeling right now, girl? I'm trying to contact you about that extended warranty. You know, two weeks ago, you you posted on Twitter August 23rd, which is, oh, would you look at that? Oh, that was today. Djonai, when you said August 23rd, what did you mean by this exactly? I think the fans want answers. We were expecting, some vengeance that you created. We were expecting a huge game. We were expecting something.
Game we had today. Djonai Carrington completely humbled by Caitlin Clark. And then she gonna try to shoulder shrug Caitlin. Caitlin like, girl, get out of here, bruh. I just bust you. Pick your face up off the floor. Caitlin Clark hit a logo 3 in her face. Then she was trying to mock. Caitlin Clark got the tech. She got it.
In 18 minutes, she dropped 7 points, shooting 3 for 11 from the field. Now the real tweet that you should have posted, Djonai Carrington, should have been March 11th, because if I had known that you was gonna shoot 3 for 11 on August 23rd, I would have I would have commented that under your post sooner.
Before the Chicago Sky and the Indiana Fever were set to face each other again, DJ Carrington sat down and posted just 2 numbers, August 23rd. That was all. No caption, no context, and nothing else added. Simply a date, shared shortly after she had been ejected from a game against Indiana following a flagrant foul, with the Fever clearly on her mind as she headed off the court. And if you understand how these kinds of posts work online, then you already know there was a much deeper message hiding beneath those 2 numbers.
Dirtbag, Djonai, clout chaser, Carrington. Careful what you wish for, Djonai. Be careful what you wish for. You're the one that circled 8/23 on the calendar. You're the one who tweeted out 8/23 as if it was some date we all should pay attention to. And people paid attention and saw you. Ooh, you had a bad game. Oh, but 8/23. Fair. Caitlin Clark makes 8 3-pointers. The Indiana Fever win by 23 points. Great foresight on your end, Djonai Carrington.
It wasn't simply a reminder about the upcoming game. It was a warning. DJ Carrington was sending a message to everyone paying attention that when these 2 teams faced off again on August 23rd, she would be prepared. She intended to make her presence felt, send a clear message, and get her chance at redemption against Caitlin Clark and the Fever. But August 23rd arrived and passed, and it's fair to say things didn't unfold the way DJ
getting
Carrington
poked in the
had
eye
imagined.
by Djonai Carrington. It happened in the first quarter when Clark tried passing the ball to her teammate Aaliyah Boston, but Carrington poked Clark in the eye while trying to deflect the pass. No foul was called, but Clark had to take a second to regain her composure. In the third quarter, Djonai was defending Caitlin again when Caitlin hit Djonai in the head, knocking out one of her contacts. No foul was called, but Djonai had to take a second to put her contact back.
The friction between DJ Carrington and the Indiana Fever didn't suddenly begin on August 8th. By this point, the history between them stretches back several years, reaching as far as Clark's first ever WNBA playoff appearance in September 2024. During that game, Carrington made contact near Clark's right eye while challenging an overhead pass intended for Aaliyah Boston. Clark immediately dropped down, holding her face in clear discomfort. No foul was called on the play, and she went on to finish the entire game with a noticeable black eye, an image that quickly became one of the most talked about moments of that postseason.
Djonai, did you, when you went and kind of swatted at Caitlin, did you intend to hit her in the eye? And if so, could you just, or if not, either way, could you talk about what happened on that play?
I don't even know why I would intend to hit anybody in the eye. That doesn't even make sense to me. But no, I didn't. I didn't know I hit her, actually. I was trying to make a play on the ball, and I guess I followed through and I hit her. So obviously it's never intentional. That's not even like the type of player that I am. So yeah.
Did you and Marina kind of laugh about it afterwards? It looked like there was later on in the game they caught you guys laughing about it.
No, I just told you I didn't even know I hit her, so I can't laugh about something I didn't know happened.
Afterward, both players described the incident as unintentional, and when you watch the replay, it truly appears to be a split-second basketball play rather than something done deliberately. Even so, that single moment developed into a major storyline of its own. The footage was replayed repeatedly, argued about across social media for days, and it created the first real sense of tension between these 2 particular players. Since then, nearly every Fever Sun or Fever Sky matchup where Carrington has been assigned to defend Clark has seemed to carry a little more intensity. There's been more talking, more physical play, and a level of contact that can sometimes feel heavier than what you normally expect from two competitors who clearly have respect for one another's talent.
What's going on here? Goo! That's assault, brother. You can't do that. What the fuck? Is this just the default if you can't think? Or if you just like don't want to take accountability for your actions? Oh my god, this league, bro, this league. White privilege while you're wearing a bleach blonde dyed wig. I mean, the fuck? What is privileged about that? You stone cold Steve Austin.
Back on August 8th in Chicago, Carrington raced in from behind during a fast break and made contact with Sophie Cunningham around the head and neck as Cunningham went up to finish a layup. The officials reviewed the play, changed the call from a common foul to a flagrant 2, and immediately ejected Djonai Carrington, sending her to the locker room before the second half could even begin. Whether you think the ruling was fair or not, depending on who you ask, that kind of thing is part of basketball. Hard fouls happen, players get ejected, and emotions can boil over in the middle of a game. Normally, the story would end there until the next time these two teams appeared on the schedule. But Djonai Carrington chose not to leave it at that. And that's where this entire situation began turning into something far bigger than a single ejection.
Djonai, you hit her in the head and you drew blood. It was a flagrant 2. You should have been ejected. No more, no less. Have we seen Sophie Cunningham aggressively foul an individual before and not get thrown out of the game? Sure. Have we seen Caitlin Clark aggressively foul an individual by hitting them in the head and not get out of the game? Absolutely. But if we are paying attention to what Djonai Carrington did to Sophie Cunningham, it was not a race-based decision. And to call that a white privilege-based foul is to completely undermine the term of white privilege and to also completely ignore the rules in basketball. You hit her in the head, you drew blood, you didn't connect with the ball at all whatsoever.
Just minutes after being sent to the locker room, Carrington posted the words "white privilege" on social media and directly tagged the Indiana Fever. That one brief post transformed what might have been an ordinary ejection into a national talking point almost overnight. Casual fans, sports radio personalities, and television commentators all began debating what she meant and whether the accusation was justified based on the circumstances surrounding the foul. Carrington later responded to some of the criticism, explaining that she had never explicitly said the flagrant foul decision itself was directly caused by racial bias. She also noted that she had studied structural inequality at one of the country's leading universities before publicly speaking about these kinds of issues. Perhaps that explanation was entirely accurate, and perhaps there was more nuance involved than many people online were willing to acknowledge in the moment. But that's the reality of putting a phrase like that into the public conversation while attaching it to a specific team's name immediately after an ejection. It doesn't simply fade away from everyone's timeline by the following morning. It stays there. It creates anticipation, and it makes the next meeting between those two teams feel like something much larger than another regular season basketball game on the schedule.
Marking this day just to get embarrassed by Caitlin Clark. The big bad wolf coming through, blowing houses down until she tried to blow down the Caitlin Clark brick house that was built by Djonai. This lady was 3 for 11. 3 for 11, 0 for 3 from the 3. A terrible performance. My goodness. Tried to come out and take the show, right? Tried to create her moment. And guess what, Djonai? Now your name is Djonai Who Carrington. Who cares? Oh my goodness. 8:23, everybody.
So that was the real context surrounding August 23rd. Djonai Carrington was coming into the game after a controversial ejection, a viral social media post that had drawn intense scrutiny, and what many viewed as a very public message directed at Caitlin Clark and the entire Fever organization. Fans on both sides of this rivalry understood exactly what the upcoming matchup was expected to represent long before the opening tip that night. This was no longer simply Sky versus Fever, with two teams competing for playoff position in a tight standings battle. It had become Carrington's opportunity to make a statement on a stage she had essentially created for herself, to prove to the basketball world that the backlash hadn't shaken her, and to show that, when these two teams took the court again, she intended to set the tone from the very beginning. That's an enormous amount of pressure to place on yourself through a public post 2 weeks before the game even happens. And that kind of self-created pressure has a habit of working against you the moment the game begins and the cameras are actually rolling.
On the court as a rookie, but she brings a defensive mentality. That'll be the first personal on Djonai Carrington.
Now, fast forward to the second quarter of the August 23rd matchup. At that stage, Chicago was clinging to a narrow 4-point lead, and credit where it's due, the Sky were putting up a much more competitive fight than many people expected from this roster against this version of the Fever. Carrington was defending Clark closely as she drove into the paint when she was called for a foul while trying to block her path. Rather than simply accepting the whistle and getting back on defense, the way players routinely do countless times during a game, she immediately began arguing with referee Charles Watson. She dramatically threw her head back, appeared to overstate the amount of contact, and put on a brief flop of her own while accusing Caitlin Clark of flopping on that very same play. And if that sequence sounds strangely familiar, that's because this isn't the first time Carrington has reacted this way, particularly in a matchup involving Clark. She made a remarkably similar move years earlier during a Fever Sun game when she was still playing for Connecticut, using the same accusation and similarly dramatic body language. At this point, it has almost become her trademark reaction whenever a call goes against her while she's defending Clark.
So the game that Djonai Carrington had circled on her calendar and wanted the world to see happened tonight, and how did it turn out? Caitlin Clark had 37 points, 10 assists, 8 threes, and we got this lovely reaction. But I want to point out something that happened in the game. Some of the Chicago Sky, including Djonai Carrington, to me, were looking for a fight this game, and Caitlin, instead of talking about it in the media, just did it with her basketball skills, and this is one of the plays that happened.
Indiana can regain the lead. Clark, another step back three. Yes! And a little bit of passion afterwards. You love it. This is...
So Djonai purposely runs into Clark, and then Clark just waves her off. Just waves her off. You can tell that Clark was just over that storyline and with that rod.
This is where things become genuinely embarrassing for DJ Carrington, and it's the exact sequence that people online immediately focused on once the clips began spreading. Roughly 30 seconds after that exchange with the referee, Caitlin Clark calmly brings the ball up the court, find herself with a wide-open, uncontested look from well beyond the three-point line, and buries a step-back logo 3 right in front of Carrington. It wasn't a heavily contested shot that somehow found its way in. It wasn't a lucky bounce off the rim. It was a clean, confident, perfectly timed three-pointer from nearly 30 feet away, coming immediately after Carrington had spent much of the previous half-minute trying to convince the official that Clark was the one being overly dramatic on that possession. Honestly, the timing could hardly have worked out worse for Carrington if someone had deliberately written the scene for maximum irony.
Here we have Caitlin Clark cooking Djonai Carrington's boots, and then Djonai Carrington goes out of her way to bump into Caitlin Clark as she's running down the floor. Let's take a look.
Clark, another step back three. Yes! And a little bit of passion afterwards. You love it.
Djonai Carrington bumps into Caitlin Clark. Watch this. This is the funniest part. And Caitlin Clark treats her like Raven Johnson in South Carolina and says, please, look how disrespectful this is. This is a you're not even worth my time type of wave off. This is a not even worth my time type of wave off. Damn, not even worth it. You're not even worth it. Look at this. Wasting my time.
And then, almost immediately after watching that shot splash cleanly through the net, the cameras caught DJ Carrington appearing to deliberately bump into Caitlin Clark as both players jogged back up the court in transition. The contact wasn't officially called as a foul, with the referees allowing play to continue, but many viewers watching at home quickly formed their own interpretation of what the bump represented. It looked like frustration, plain and simple. Carrington had just argued emphatically with the referee, then watched Clark answer with a logo-range three-pointer less than a minute later, and the contact appeared to be an emotional reaction to that sequence rather than an attempt to make a basketball play. Clark, meanwhile, barely seemed to react. She continued jogging up the floor, kept her attention on the game and allowed her performance on the court to speak for itself from that point forward.
Let's see what America's team, the best team in the league, with the best player on it did today. Let's see. Oh, come here. Yeah, historic night. Okay, best player in the league. Ooh, look at how she diamond. Look, when the team is ran through Caitlin, look at how beautiful it is. Okay. Oh, Caitlin on the defense. Look at that. Defense. They say she don't play it. Okay. Swing it. Oh, swing it. Oh. Freeze.
And misses that one. Indiana can regain the lead.
I want some more. You come back.
Clark, another step back three. Yes.
Because this is what actually unfolded over the rest of that night. While Djonai Carrington appeared focused on trying to draw some kind of reaction from her, Caitlin Clark simply took over the game. She ended the night with 37 points and 10 assists, connecting on 8 three-pointers during an incredible and historically efficient shooting performance, all after being accused of supposedly flopping less than a minute earlier in that same quarter. The Fever didn't merely defeat the Sky that night. They dominated them from beginning to end, cruising to a 23-point victory, a margin that felt almost symbolic considering Djonai Carrington had highlighted that exact date weeks earlier as her personal opportunity to make a statement against this particular opponent. The final score was 113-90, and every bit of that 23-point gap seemed to serve as a clear response to the August 23rd post she had shared 2 weeks before.
Thing. She has a history of making dirty plays, and it's fine. The NBA, you can be a rough and tumble league. Now, where this thing gets absolutely bananas is when you start making it into a race and culture war, and the people talking about it are not mentioning 99% of the time that she went back and tweeted white privilege. White privilege how? You made a dirty play. Sophie Cunningham, everyone's putting up clips of her like tackling a player on a drive, defending Caitlin. You say, well, she got kicked out of the game for that too and didn't say anything after.
The online reaction was immediate, and it certainly wasn't kind to Djonai Carrington once the highlights began circulating. Dave Portnoy, someone who rarely hesitates to share his opinions on anything happening in sports, criticized her directly, arguing that her role in this rivalry lately seemed to involve repeatedly embarrassing herself against Caitlin Clark and the Fever. While making his comments on air, he also brought up Carrington's original white privilege post from 2 weeks earlier. He delivered his point in characteristically blunt fashion, saying that Clark popped her head off and dribbled her around like a basketball on her way to 37 points and 10 assists, the very night Carrington herself had previously marked on the calendar. It's undeniably a harsh way to describe what happened, and plenty of people online disagreed with the tone of those comments, but the sequence of events itself is difficult to dispute. DJ did the talking, Caitlin responded with her performance, and by the end of the night, the numbers on the scoreboard had spoken far louder than anything either player had said before the game.
Flopped the whole game. She is so obnoxious. Oh yeah, she really is obnoxious. Then Clark hits a three right in her face. Funny because Carrington had a pretty soft foul that went her way on the other end. She's been running her mouth and trying to get a reaction out of Clark all game. Clark hasn't given it to her. And that probably eats up Djonai Carrington. The fact that she couldn't get a reaction out of Caitlin Clark, that probably eats her up inside. Here we have, well, the white privilege Caitlin Clark versus instigator Djonai Carrington. I think Caitlin got you tonight. Nay. That's nay. 37 points to 7 points. Ooh, she scored 30 more points than you. Damn. Same amount of rebounds, 10 assists to 1 assist. Yikes. Damn, Djonai, that's a crazy picture.
What makes this entire sequence so revealing isn't simply the fact that Carrington came out on the losing end of the individual matchup on the stat sheet that night, although she clearly did in nearly every meaningful category. It's the striking difference between the way both players handled themselves once the pressure surrounding that particular date finally arrived. Djonai Carrington spent significant portions of the game arguing with officials, dramatically reacting to plays, and making contact with a player who showed little interest in participating in any of the surrounding theatrics. Caitlin Clark, meanwhile, spent that same game doing exactly what she had consistently done for the Fever all season. She caught the ball in rhythm, read the defense a step ahead of everyone else, and confidently took shots from distances that most players in the league wouldn't even consider attempting. She didn't need to publicly respond to that August 23rd post with a single word. Instead, she let 8 made three-pointers, 37 points, and 10 assists deliver the message for her on the very date DJ herself had chosen weeks earlier as her moment to make statement.
Caitlin Clark right here. Look at this, man. So she's reaching in for the ball, fouling Caitlin Clark. We can visibly see she's going in. Caitlin has the ball all the way out here. So clearly you didn't get basketball. You got something else. If you got basketball, the ball would have, left Caitlin Clark's hand. It would have got, deflected or something. It would have went out the way. It would have been a loose ball. But no, Caitlin still has full control of her dribble. What she doesn't have control over is you all in her space, hand checking her, smacking her. And the referee sees it, calls the whistle, and you immediately, instead of reacting, this is how I know you're a victim. You get weaponized by the other victims in the black community, right? Because listen, there's multiple communities in the black community. There's the victim side, and then there's the side that stands for what's right. I'm on the side that stands for what's right? And I have a bunch of black supporters on this channel who is also on that same side. We don't care about skin color. We care about good product. We care about right or wrong.
There's
we care
a real
if you're a good
lesson
human
buried
being.
in this entire situation for anyone paying close attention to how this particular rivalry continues to unfold from game to game and season to season. When you spend 2 full weeks publicly building anticipation around one specific date and telling the internet that you're coming for revenge against a particular opponent, you place an enormous amount of pressure on yourself before a single possession has even been played. And when the player you're attempting to rattle happens to be one of the most mentally composed competitors in the league, someone who's already been double-teamed, hard fouled, mocked, and bumped in nearly every matchup against this opponent for multiple seasons, that entire strategy can fall apart very quickly once the real pressure of live competition takes over. Caitlin Clark has seen every version of this before. At this point in her career, she has played through a black eye following the unintentional contact with Carrington during her rookie playoff debut. She's received technical fouls that were later rescinded after disputed contact on both sides of the court. She's been accused of flopping by this same player on more than one occasion across multiple seasons. And almost every time, her response has followed the same pattern. She doesn't take it to social media. She doesn't use interviews to fire back with much hostility. She simply arrives on game day and lets what she does on the court speak louder than any public warning or challenge ever could.
Clark once again made history last night. She had 37 points, she had 10 assists, and this is now her 5th game in her career having at least 30 points and at least 10 assists, and that is more than the entire WNBA combined. Let that sink in for a second, you guys. She has not even played 3 full seasons in the WNBA. She hasn't even really played 2 full seasons because of how much she was out with injury last year. And she's already breaking records like that. Like, she had an outstanding night. She hit 8 threes on the night. She was 8 for 12 from 3. So many of those were like FU threes, like the heat checks that she was pulling.
Caitlin Clark delivered one of her strongest all-around performances of the entire season. She finished with 37 points, 10 assists, and 8 made three-pointers against the very opponent who had spent 2 full weeks publicly building up the idea of making life difficult for her. DJ Carrington, meanwhile, was left dealing with the aftermath of a heated argument over a foul, an accusation of flopping that appeared to backfire on camera, and contact during transition that looked even worse once slow-motion clips began spreading online. The final scoreboard showed a 23-point difference on the exact date she had marked weeks in advance. Sometimes the loudest statements made online are the ones that come back to hurt the most when the actual game finally arrives. And this was one of those nights people won't soon forget. Caitlin Clark didn't need to warn anyone about what was coming. She simply showed up and played her game the way she always does.